Very good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. As always, we'll do what we can to bring you up to speed with the ever very high-speed world to help you make sense of the very important ones so you can make decisions for yourself for the rest of the day. Bukola, good morning.
Good morning, Jeffrey. Indeed, it's been a very busy last 24 hours with so many things happening at the same time. But welcome to your perfect morning starter, where we help you make sense of it all. Of course, digging for the story or the stories behind the big headlines. I am Bukola Koka.
As a matter of fact, I think the good place to start is to ask Nigerians, how much are you buying fuel where you are? Of course, I'm sure you understand what's going on, but Nigerians are really going through hell and warm waters as far as that is concerned. Brent, WTI, crude oil prices has naturally gone up. In fact, this week it hit a 4-year high with over $100 per barrel. In fact, it got to almost $120 per barrel, depending on which numbers you're looking at, both for WTI and even Brent crude. And that has affected the gantry price, even for Dangote refinery, that has finally now increased its price, which has now had a knock-on effect. Because for him, the argument is to the effect that all of the things he does in dollars, 30% of the crude he gets comes from Nigeria, the rest is imported. So it's also, and even the one from Nigeria is a dollar equivalent. Even the movement of those crude from wherever they are explored and brought to the refinery costs a lot of money. It's still in dollars. Crude is a global commodity, it's priced in dollars. So as far as this is concerned, Bukola, I am seeing a situation where, not doomsday prophecy, but because of what is playing out in the Middle East, the United States and Israel in their campaign were aiming at a change in the regime of the Iranian government. But instead of a change, well, the people have said continuity is the way to go with appointing or electing, whichever way they did it. The Assembly of Experts has now brought in Khamenei's son, Mujtaba, who is a hardline conservative, we understand. Besides his father dying, his mother was also a casualty. Some are reporting that his daughter and his wife were also casualties. So you can see that if the regime change was the big objective for the United States government, then this has not achieved that much, because now by electing Ayatollah's son, Ali Khamenei's son, they are saying we continue from where his father stopped. So with all of the things happening in the Gulf nation, as far as Iran is concerned, we can clearly see that this war is far from over. So from that point of view, fundamental analysis will tell you that this can go all the way to 1,500 naira, and even in excess, if it's not already there. In some, I'm talking about Lagos. Now, Lagos is still around 1,250, maybe 1,3. So far north, perhaps it's even way more expensive. So we may be seeing prices in Lagos or PMS go as far as 1,500, 1,600, and maybe more, depending on what plays out as far as this war is concerned. So what can the government do? I've racked my brain, I've thought about it. Well, we're going to explore that conversation. One of the ways is to incentivize maybe Dangote refinery, and then some level of discount, subsidize production. If you can't subsidize consumption, then you may subsidize production and say, instead of selling you the crude for XYZ amount, let's do it discounted for you for XY percentage, so that the pump price will eventually come to Nigerians at affordable rate. That is the quickest thing that crosses one's mind. Whether that is standard or not, we'll debate that later.
And you know, Jeffrey, is really a tough one, because we're buying petrol now for 1,250 naira per liter in Lagos, but incomes are not increasing. And imagine, you know, what that does to the pocket of the average Nigerian. Over the weekend, a number of young Nigerians began putting up videos about how much they spend, you know, per trip of transportation. And for some of them, very young Nigerians who may not be earning so much, their transportation cost is going for, per month, you know, by their calculation, they're spending as much as 70,000 naira, you know, per month. And you know that, you know, Nigerians, even the average Nigerian spends, you know, the bulk of their remuneration on food. And so if you spend that much as well on transportation, you do the calculation as well. But we also heard the managing director, I believe, was chief executive officer of Dangote Refinery, also speaking to these issues yesterday, saying that Nigeria is not immune from the shocks of, the dispute between the United States and Israel on the one hand and Iran. But I noted, Jeffrey, that he also spoke about the Naira for crude policy as sort of seeking a soft landing. And I believe that the Naira for crude policy is still active. But what that may not, be removed from is also the vagaries of international crude policy. It's whatever whatever is sold in the international market that Nigeria may also be selling to Dangote, but this time around in Naira. So the question, the million-dollar question now is, when will this conflict come to an end? Because it appears as if when there's a conflict in the Middle East, the whole oil-producing nations, or those at the receiving end who may be oil exporters, petroleum importers, and maybe even crude oil, refiners, they catch cold, so to speak. So we may be in for this tough times for a longer time to come than expected, following the resolve, with Iran doubling down on its resolve, to maintain its sovereignty and prosecute this war by responding with as much firepower that it can with strikes. And by our count, by the way, the war may have entered its 10th day or so, counting from February the 20th. So it's really a very discomforting situation. And we can only hope that, all parties to this conflict come to a negotiation table such that the world can be out of the woods as soon as possible, Jeffrey.
We hope the world can be out of the woods. But what may not be comforting from the Nigerian population is the fact that government just sits down, doing nothing, saying, this sector has been deregulated. So we told you that when crude prices go down, like it went all the way down to $65, $60-something or 70, you enjoy the benefit of low prices. Now it has gone up, so you also bear the brunt of a high price. But I think government can do a lot more better. If there's anything a lot of Nigerians are angry about this government, against this government, it's subsidy removal. Of course, it was almost inevitable to have removed subsidy because of the corruption in that sector, that the people continue to pay for this thing. So I would advise government to see how, we don't know how long this will last, the windfall that is coming from the selling of our crude in international market. Let's take part of that windfall and perhaps, subsidize production so that our own very big boy Dangote that has saved literally all of us in the region will be able to,
because
help us.
prior to, this upscaling of domestic refining capacity in Nigeria, had this war happened when we didn't have that, imagine what difficulty, harrowing experience Nigerians will be experiencing currently at petrol stations with queues longer than Third Mainland Bridge, and Nigerians having a hard time, trying to buy petrol.
Yeah.
But the question is it still a fair arrangement? And are we even optimistic that following the president's executive order instructing the direct remittance of oil revenues to the Federation account, will Nigerians have a better time seeing that indeed the Commonwealth works for their benefit in infrastructure development? We're still scrutinizing the subnationals for a justification for the increased allocation that they're getting from the federal government. And the answers there are less than satisfactory. So are you optimistic that even with this increase in, revenues from crude oil sale amid this conflict, that indeed Nigerians will have a better time for it? By the check, we're doing 1.6 or 1.5 million barrels per day. And so you can do the mathematics with what the price of crude oil is currently saying. What will Nigerians be better for it?
I'll tell you
in the next 3 months, in the next quarter?
I'll tell you three things that the monies will be used for. First, some monies will be used for good causes. Road projects, some you're familiar with, health projects and all of that. Some will be definitely stolen. I can guarantee you that. And the others will be used for campaign re-election across board. Those are the three scenarios. You can now do your own mathematics. What percentage goes to what? They will steal, they will use it for projects, and they will use it for re-election. Let's talk about what the U.S. is saying. The United States Embassy in Nigeria has issued a security alert warning of a possible terrorist threat targeting U.S. facilities and American affiliated schools in the country. In a notice released by the embassy in Abuja, U.S. citizens were advised to take extra precautions when visiting American diplomatic premises and institutions linked to the United States. The alert specifically mentioned the U.S. Embassy Abuja and the U.S. Consulate General Lagos, urging American nationals to remain vigilant and adopt additional security measures while traveling to these locations. According to the embassy, citizens should vary their travel routes and times, avoid predictable routines, and remain alert to their surroundings to reduce potential risk. And this is expected, of course. Some of the bombings that we've seen the Iranians do in the Gulf is targeted at United States military bases and all of those kinds of places. So it's expected, sympathizers of Iranian government are here. We have Shiite Muslims here, the El Zazaki people who have even, I think, gone to protest. So everybody's trying to be cautious. The Nigerian government is also assuring that they'll do their very best to make sure that nothing escalates down here. I think that's the right and responsible thing to do.
And recall, Jeffrey, that this is the second advisory coming from the U.S. Embassy. The first was about a week ago when the conflict first started. And the newly decorated Inspector General of Police at that time had assured, that adequate security would be provided, acknowledging the concerns that comes from, the alternative Muslim groups, the Shiite that you just mentioned, that they have sympathies with Iran and they would want to perhaps protest. And we had in fact seen, that protest come up, I think, a day or before that particular advisory. So this advisory coming yet again should be taken seriously. Perhaps, the impending threats that is being warned about is a real one. And we hope that it doesn't happen. And even if there are any efforts to that effect, that the security agents are well able, prepared, and alert to deal decisively with it, such that any unforeseen circumstances do not happen. And so that's a security advisory for everyone, not just U.S. nationals in the country. But there's more coming through from the last 24 hours, Jeffrey.
Maybe talk
also
about
security.
Politics. Yeah. Okay. You want to talk about the Kwara one?
Yes, indeed. The Inspector General of Police has assured Nigerians that the security agency will reclaim communities currently threatened by terrorists. And the IG gave this assurance during an operational visit to the Kwara State Police Command in Ilorin, where he met stakeholders to review strategies against insecurity. And he further assured the people of Kwara State of improved security with renewed vigor from the officers and men of the police force. And, we could mention those communities, Eruku, we could mention Ifelodun local government area. And let's, use this opportunity to remind the Inspector General of Police that these communities, according to reports, even from those who were affected by the track, are vulnerable with no security formation on ground, no, army garrison that could deter any form of attack of these communities. And I wonder if all the records of kidnappings have been dealt with decisively, such that all those kidnapped in different communities in Kwara and in neighboring Kogi have been rescued and returned to their loved ones. And so this intervention is coming at a time that, Nigerians from the North Central need it the most. And we hope that the Inspector General of Police backs up words with action, with the provision of adequate security in those communities, and not just, rhetorics and, a visit that shows, that something is being done. Perhaps, and on the contrary, there are no specific actions taken, to back up efforts like this. Jeffrey.
Talk is cheap. Get the work done. That's as simple as it gets. Let's move from there to politics. PDP, Bukola, 9 consolidated appeals. The pro-Wike group won yesterday, and the pro-Makinde group heading to court. We're going to explore that conversation. There's a lot, when it comes to these issues as far as the politics of PDP is concerned. And if this is where the pro-Wike group wanted the party to be, I think they've gotten into where it is, where the party will either not have a candidate in the election or will present just a space holder just for the sake of having a candidate, which is why some people are now leaving the party, clearly knowing that Nyesom Wike supports the president wholeheartedly without mincing words. As a matter of fact, there's a time even the judiciary has been touched in all of this. there are judges that are seen as favoring the Wike group because most of the cases go there. In fact, the PDP had written, I think, to the head of the High Court or Federal High Court to say, please stop sending our cases to Justice
James
Omotosho, because like every case that Wike takes there, he wins, according to them. Peter Lifu, Justice Peter Lifu, and Joyce Abdul Malik. And if you follow through, you see that they have a case in that argument. Whether or not those judges deliver cases based on justice according to law or they were influenced, only them know, and the people around them know. So those are allegations that PDP raised, that how come whenever our cases are brought, when Wike is involved, it's either Motosho, Abdul Malik, or Lifu, and he always gets favor, whether it's coming from Rivers State or it's coming from PDP. So maybe those judges, they need to check them out as well to be sure that, because it's their reputation that is at stake here. It's their reputation, so they need to do something. And I know that this has played out. But what is happening, you know, you asked me the other day whether I'm surprised at things that happen. No, nothing surprises me. I'm expecting the PDP to almost be empty. I'll be surprised if the PDP is not almost empty or literally empty. The reason why it bothers me as a Democrat, as a patriot, is the fact that in every democracy there are so many political parties, but 2 or 3 will stand out, like the Democrats and Republican, Labour and Conservative. We can go on and on. Nigeria, we're hoping that we'll have 2 solid parties, because SDP has been there since the military era. They've been there. But what happened? They've never run a national government. There are only 2 parties that have run a national government, PDP and APC. And in 3 cycles of election, the first party to run a national government in the Fourth Republic is almost gone. That does not all go well. And I can tell you, when the APC loses election, I'm not saying if, when they lose, whenever that is, the same thing. So what are we building? But where I'm going to with all of this, I did have a conversation 9 months ago with Zamfara State Governor, who you were praising, like, you know, he looks like he's a tough guy. He's not going to move. But perhaps with the decision that has now favored the Wike group, who is going to be supporting the president, what's the point being in the party with him?
And he's seeking a second term, by the way.
Yeah, he's looking for a second term. So the party doesn't have, it's not stable, it's unpredictable. So anyway, let's take a listen to my conversation with Governor Dauda Lawal a few months ago on his position when the crisis was at a crescendo at some point.
Do you think this is resolvable, say, between now and the election?
Jeff, you know, I'm a very, very optimistic person, and I believe there is no crisis that cannot be resolved. It's just a matter of time. The most important thing is to agree that you have issues, and that was one of the things that led to our meeting in Abuja on Sunday, to discuss PDP. And we were very, very frank to ourselves. And I was happy with the way and the turn the meeting took place. And like I said, it's just a matter of time. This crisis will be resolved within the PDP. So just give us some time. It's normal. I mean, it's politics. There is no party that doesn't have any crisis. PDP is not immune to that.
Governor, I will leave you for a moment, but I just wanted to remind you that your crisis has lasted for at least 2 years. I don't know what this optimism, I hope it works. Your problem has lasted for 2 years. I mean, your party now, since the primary was over into the election till today, till tomorrow. I even used to dare some of your party members that your neck will not hold. And they laugh, but it never held. But we hope that the one on the 27th will hold.
Trust me, Jeff. You know, this crisis will make us stronger.
Okay, there's a part where I wanted the audience to hear, where he talked about, if they can play that part to the complete point, where he said, I should quote him, that they will get out of this. There's a specific part. I don't know why they didn't play it to the end.
Well, Jeffrey, I believe that things.
He said I should quote him, that they will come out of that crisis. And I quoted the day. I don't know why the producer didn't pull that out.
Even the much that we have heard speaks for itself. The governor is by now eating his words right now, because his defection has been announced. And it appears as if there could just be one last man standing in the People's Democratic Party as far as governors are concerned. If reports are anything to go by, that perhaps the governor of Bauchi State is also packing his bags and maybe leaving for the All Progressives Congress soon. We're waiting for a refutal or an affirmation of that particular report. But Jeffrey, with all of those, judges that you cited and the judgments that they have given in favor of the Wike or the other Abdurrahman-led group of the PDP, it appears as if they have the knife and the yam right now. And, surprisingly, the former governor of Rivers State and minister of the FCT yesterday was speaking in some sort of conciliatory tone, unlike, his tone that was usually his character prior to this time amid the conflict in the PDP, sort of calling for negotiation, that they should, set aside their ego and, let's talk. So will the Kabiru Turaki-led group of the PDP, if indeed they lose at the Supreme Court level, go back and try to put the PDP family in order? Will that be in good time enough for this to be sorted out such that the PDP can present a presidential candidate ahead of the 2026 election? Or those who have been conspiring, according to reports, to hold the PDP for Mr. President have succeeded, and indeed the center at the PDP cannot hold ahead of the 2027 general election? I believe that Nigerians have the answers to those very critical questions somewhere, and they can tell what will happen at the end of the day. But with those judgments, Jeffrey, in favor of the Wike-led group, I wonder if you're optimistic about what the outcome will be should they go upstairs, as Sheung always says, to the Supreme Court.
Well, the PDP will answer for themselves.
The answer is somewhere in that pause,
yeah,
that brief pause.
The truth is that they don't have time. The luxury of time is what they do not have. They just have April 23rd to May the 30th is all they have to be able to have a primary and all of that. So it's a very tough one. If they go to the Supreme Court, it's within their rights to go to the Supreme Court. But the point is that the leader of that group, which is Nyesom Wike, his disposition as to how he wants to prosecute the next election, for me, which is an aberration of democracy. I just believe that if you want to do politics, you stay in the party and do your you can do anti-party but smartly. But this new nuance, it's not just Nyesom Wike now. I'm seeing it even amongst governors. Some states where they don't want a PDP APC situation. They want to merge the two parties. The aberration and obnoxious ludicrosity I see within the political class is just not acceptable. But perhaps it's Nigerian version of democracy. Let's take a break. We'll be back, and our analysts will be joining us to break down what the headlines are leading with. Stay with us. Mr. Adeni Fetaya joins us. He's a publisher of Megastar magazine and a journalist. Mr. Fetaya, thank you for waiting and helping us. Going to help us break this down. We needed to look through the many things that Nigeria has to deal with this morning. Thank you for coming.
Good morning. It's my pleasure and greeting from London. I nearly missed it because we are 1 hour behind, so I felt that I still have 1 hour to join.
Yeah.
So.
Not a problem.
But it's okay.
Yeah, we hope London is safe for you. Let's get to Vanguard newspaper. Vanguard is leading with Middle East war, hardship deepens with petrol selling at 1,300 naira per litre. The riders, Dangote adjusts gantry prices of petrol, diesel to 1,175 and 1,620 per litre. Mr. Ifetai, what do you make of the story?
Yes, well, it will see as long as the Middle East was continue, the petroleum price is still going to be increased. But what I expected the government is for them to roll out a plan to cushion the effect. It's not our war, but there are so many things that affect us directly and indirectly. I was listening to the CEO of Dangote Refinery talking about the cost, some cost that they bear when it comes to yes, they source crude oil locally, but the cost of transportation, transporting it from the open market, you know, so many things that they incur, so they don't need to bear the cost alone. I just felt that the government at this time should, you know, roll out a measure how the Nigerian people who is going to suffer this, because once fuel price increase, cost of petroleum, cost of food, etc., etc. So they should come up with a measure. For example, roll out more LNG vehicles and say, if commercial vehicle are taking 100 naira, you can use this and pay 15 naira, half the price, so that it's not from all the way Nigeria are losing from both ends. That's one of the way to cushion the effect of this increase in petroleum price.
Mr. Adeniyi, before we leave that particular matter, if the president has the powers to, you know, in 24 hours, having, I believe, considered it, introduces discretionary constitutional powers to instruct that crude oil funds be remitted directly to the Federation account instead of the, you know, the status quo where the NNPC was in receipt of funds. Shouldn't the president also be able to deploy such discretionary powers to amend the PIA such that there could be some form of regulation? Because amid this war, we really do not know when it will end, and there are predictions that petrol price could go for as high as 1,500 naira per liter, and you know what that means for Nigerians.
1 to 5.
Yes, Mr. Ifetayo.
Okay.
Yes,
So
that's what I'm saying. If he has the power or discretionary power of being the
1 to 5
to say that
1,
all the money
2,
should be remitted to Federation
3.
account.
Mr. Ifetayo.
We don't know when it's going to end. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. We couldn't hear you for a bit, but we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So since you have a discretionary power to say that executive order 9, let all the money be remitted to Federation account, I think you can as well do something to say that, look, since we don't know where this war is going to end, but to bring a kind of cushion effect, you know, to Nigeria, who are going to bear the cost of whatever it is that is happening, that they will be paying even more for what we produce, what they refine locally. I'm sure he can still do that. He's in within his right and privileges to do that, to say, since it's for governance, is all about people, you know. So it's one of the way that I can come up and say, let's do this, let's give back, or if it is temporary measure or increase in salary, as it were, so that, and also talk to the state executive, because they get more money now since subsidy have been removed, so that the people at the grassroots level can feel it. And of course, local government, autonomous, whatever it is they are releasing to the state, let it get to local government, because it might be what matter to local government A might be different what local government B needs. So those are the things I feel that the president can still do to make sure that Nigerians or the masses did not bear the brunt of this war in the Middle East.
All right, let's take a breather on what's happening in the Middle East as we head to this Nigerian newspaper. And of course, it trails part of our discussion from a few minutes ago. PDP, Lawal Zamfara governor runs to APC. Appeal court shocks Makinde's group. And there are some writers there. Nullifies Ibadan convention. Drop your ego. Let's unite to save our party. Wike tells aggrieved members. Turaki faction heads to Supreme Court. Well, you know, to sort of review my earlier analysis, do you really agree that the Wike group has the knife and the yam, considering the rulings in their favor? But others would say that, look, the Turaki group has the popular support of members of the PDP across states of the Federation. How do you, you know, predict that this will all turn out for the PDP? And by the way, are you surprised, you know, just on the second part, about the Zamfara governor's defection?
No, I'm not surprised. You know, there was a time he said that he was not going to leave PDP and if there are what they call independent candidates, if something like that will occur, that will go there. But of course, we know that since the water could not hold ground, they will definitely resort to APC. So that one is not that I'm not surprised at all. And talking about the Wike and PDP holding the yard for 9, well, of course, based on this ruling as it stands, I think they are still based on what former governor, I'm sorry, Governor Makinde of Oyo State said that Wike told the president, I'm going to hold PDP for you the 2027. I see that playing out. So I just feel that if they could rally around and see, sometimes our justice department or judiciary, so to say, you get headache today, they give you toothache tomorrow. It's so dicey. But I just feel that since Wike has been expelled, based on what is on ground, and I'm not seeing anything otherwise, and is not neither a member of APC, I think PDP can rally around together their member that is remaining and see what they can, because time is ticking and election is just here and they are still battling with this. But for those governors, they don't want to be caught in the line of fire. They have to run for safety, and if they said APC, why some other governor choose another party? But it's just judiciary, they are not doing us well in this country, I must say.
All right, so let's look at one more paper before we get to just literally leading with the same thing. I think we've done this Nigeria. I think let's go to the Guardian newspaper. I'm trying to see which of them is leading with something different. But anyway, Guardian newspaper, oil rally retreats as Nigeria awaits pump price review. So what they're leading with, I follow the numbers a lot when it comes to how the market is playing out. Between yesterday, I think it dipped from the 100 and it started off very high. It got as high as almost 120. But as at yesterday, it had dipped maybe 5% to that effect. I think now it's around the $90-something per barrel. So the volatility is intense, depending on what Trump is tweeting or saying, or what bomb is dropping where. So this is why the Guardian is saying, look, it's a very dicey situation. What do you make of it?
Yes, it's going to be a dicey situation because it's not coming down soon as long as the war still continues. So just like I said earlier on, I expect the government to roll out a measure to, cushion the effect, even if it cannot increase the salary of workers at this time. And there are measures when it comes to transportation, there are measures when it comes to food, commodity, etc., etc. So, and that's one of the way the government can rise to the occasion. I have a friend who lives in France that I think during COVID, that was he every month or every week, that he received an alert of 500 euro from government. I don't see anything different that Nigerian government, they can't do that. You have all our NINs and whatever it is, or bank account, and even if it's those who are vulnerable and those who make less than 100,000 or 200,000, depend on how they want to look at it, and say every month you get, let's say for example, a token of 50,000 naira, so that to reduce the pressure, the hardship, or increase in pump price that is biting Nigerians, and the price is not coming down any soon. So it's just depend on the government to put some measure in place to reduce the effect.
All right. Quite a lot to chew on there, Mr. Adeni Ifetai. We must anchor at this point. We really can't take all of the other papers, but we have significantly exhausted much of the big stories from the Middle East to the happenings in the polity as far as politics is concerned. Mr. Adeni Ifetai is a public affairs analyst and, of course, a publisher. Thank you for coming through on this particular one.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And so we'll take a moment now. When we return, we'll delve into the heart of the politics of the People's Democratic Party. Is there any resolution in sight, or will the expected Supreme Court ruling further divide the PDP? You have answers from those who should know. After this time out, join us again.
Welcome back. Since the People's Democratic Party lost election in 2015, it's been one war to the other. As we speak, maybe in the next election, we're concerned whether the PDP will even have a single governor. As at the last election, they came up with about 12 or so governors in the nation. But as we speak, Dr. Lawal, the governor of Zamfara State, is on his way out. So we are just left with Bauchi governor and the Oyo State governor. And we can tell you for a fact, well, let me hold my words now. Some are already on their way out. So will the PDP survive all of this onslaught? They're a divided house, the pro-Makinde, Bala, and then the pro-Wike. They went to court, arguing over leadership, the convention held in Ibadan. Whether or not that convention is valid or not, well, that went on. Where there are two judgments and other rulings of court. Eventually, they consolidated all the appeals, and the Court of Appeal has now decided in favor of the pro-Wike group. With other things within that judgment, well, the Makinde group, the Turaki group, it says they will be heading to the Supreme Court. But time is of the essence. What is going to be the fate of one of the biggest political parties Nigeria has ever produced that ruled the country for 16 years, and just after 3 election cycles, the shadow of itself? The two contending forces are here with us to make sense of what is happening in their party. Dixon Oregu is a PDP chieftain. He joins us from Abuja studio, as well as Okechukwu Osoha rather, is a former deputy national legal advisor of the PDP and now a member of the National Caretaker Working Committee. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on the program.
Good morning, and thank you very much.
I should have brought my red cap, though I don't have any, but I'm inspired. But let me start with you, Mr. Oregu. The verdict is in. At least we're clear as crystal, because the verdict being in, and whoever is heading to the Supreme Court, you don't appeal a victory, you appeal a loss. What do you make of what has actually played out in courts as far as this case is concerned? The argument was basically that the Ibadan Convention was not validly put together. I'm just using a layman's term to summarize this. And that has created a kind of worm. The judgment about procedural issues within the party, from ward level to local government to all of that convention. And then the Sule Lamido issue of saying, look, you deny me of my fundamental right to be voted for, to vote, so that convention cannot hold. 2 judgments and all kinds of judgment later, and then, of course, the order. What do you make of what has now played out finally at the Court of Appeal, Mr. Oregu?
Again, thank you very much for this opportunity. What I make out of what played out at the appellate court yesterday, well, first off, is a little setback for the People's Democratic Party, because what we expected was that the judgment would come and revamp the base of the party, because all of these challenges that we're faced with is actually at the national level, at the grassroots level, the ward level, the state level. Everything is, PDP is intact. But at the national level, that's where the conflict is. Just like the 2023 election, where we had everything seamlessly work for both the House of Reps and the Senate, and then when it got to the presidency, there was a glitch. So the clear issue here is that that glitch is now happening nationally and is affecting PDP directly, because the plan is to poach and destabilize the People's Democratic Party. And some members decided to avail themselves the opportunity to be used as tools, to destabilize the People's Democratic Party, and indeed possibly destabilize democracy in Nigeria. So the judiciary failed in helping save democracy at that appellate court yesterday. The judgment was confusing personally for me, because in one breath you're saying that you don't recognize the Ibadan Convention, which was constitutionally and legally constituted according to the constitution of the People's Democratic Party. It was that the NEC 101, that the convention for Ibadan November 15th to 16th convention was announced, and INEC was present. All of the processes, required, the 21 days notice and all of that, all of it was executed. And then the convention days to it, those who have publicly announced their position to stay in the party, distract the party, derail the party, and possibly ensure that the party does not move to the direction it ought to go. They stayed in there and then went to court to stop the party's convention as should have held, as was going to hold in November. Well, of course, the convention did hold. And then the appeal was yesterday, and when they said they didn't recognize it, they also said clearly that Demagu was said to have resigned in the same convention. And that's the confusion there. But one thing is clear, that those who are parading themselves as caretaker committee were also told that yesterday that they were suspended, and that suspension was upheld. And there was no way, therefore, that while they were in suspension, they activated what they are calling a kangaroo caretaker committee. So what it has done is allowed some kind of vacuum, leadership vacuum, legally within the party. But of course, the constitution of the party is clear that the conscience of the party is those who are custodians of the conscience of the party at the Board of Trustees. And at this time, one would be expecting them to get together and take back this party and possibly do the right thing while, of course, the Supreme Court angle is tackled and all of that. It's just unfortunate that PDP...
All right, Mr. Arogbo, let me take you to your brother, your colleague there, Mr. Soha. Let him also have his input. If you can hear me, Mr. Arogbo. Mr. Soha, your take as well. Now, he's saying he's confused about the judgment. I'm reserving my question on a few things because I haven't seen the enrolled order. Perhaps on Wednesday we'll be able to get the CTC. That's when we can speak boldly to what was said and what was not said. But as it stands now, they are heading to the Supreme Court, apparently saying that this is not in their favor. But what's your own interpretation? There are deeper issues, but talk to us about the legalese and the confusion around the legalese as speculated by some.
Thank you so much, Geoffrey. You know, when you see me sitting here, I've come here to discuss the matter before us objectively and not passing the box and not trying to trivialize issues. We're talking about the judgment of the Court of Appeal yesterday. And when I come in here, I'm a realist. We are in a Nigeria, we are practicing democracy, and democracy must try by the rule of law. We are not a banana republic, and we cannot afford to toy with democracy. I studied law. Laws are made for the peace, order, and good governance of the country. And we have arms of government. We have the executive arm, we have the legislative arm, and we have the judicial arm. And that's what makes for peace and orderliness of our country. The judgment of the Court of Appeal yesterday was a welcome development. It was a fantastic judgment. I mean, it's a landmark judgment in the sense that there was a matter before the Court of Appeal. You know, it was brought by Turaki. Turaki appealed the two subsisting judgments of the Federal High Court. And the Court of Appeal, you know, adjudicated on the matter yesterday and dismissed that appeal by Turaki in the sense that the convention that brought him, the convention that produced him, that unlawful convention that took place in Ibadan, was in defiance of two subsisting Federal High Court judgments. Then the Court of Appeal said that he cannot stand, that convention is a nullity. It was nullified, and every decision that was taken in that convention is equally a nullity. So yesterday, it was, I learned a lot of things because I was in the court. It tried to expand, you know, our legal jurisprudence yesterday because I watched even the judiciary, the justices in the court had to educate us so that even the politicians, that we are now abusing the court process, that we have to tread with caution. Because most of our politicians, you see them run to different courts of competent jurisdiction and obtain judgment and orders here and there. and begin to choose the order that they will obey. The court said yesterday that it should not be that way. That there's a procedural law and substantive law. That if a court of competent jurisdiction, a court of first instance, give judgment and you're dissatisfied, the process in law is to appeal to an appellate court and then apply for stay of execution, and not to run to another court of concurrent jurisdiction and obtain an order and say you will obey it. That it is not in tandem with our law. So yesterday was so educative in their judgment. And I want to tell you, even you see that veil, because what I learned in the court yesterday, that's that veil about people, having erroneously believing that the Supreme Court said that every party matter is internal affairs of the party. The court now ruled yesterday, the Court of Appeal said no, that is not internal affairs of the matter. It's about the disobedience and then of the extant laws of the land, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Electoral Act, and the Constitution of the party. The court said that any political party that that goes to conduct their congresses and convention, in violation of the Constitution of their party, that the court will entertain it, the court will wade in and then adjudicate on the matter, and in order to save our democracy. The court said no, you cannot be doing things by impunity or by your whims and caprices. That's why the laws are made. Because people will always say this matter is an internal affairs of the party. How can it be internal affairs of the party? That you're excluding people, you're disenfranchising people. Party is an association. And when you have an association, the political party has a constitution. And that constitution is binding on the members. You provide how you can do things. You have the Electoral Act, there's the constitution. But the people go and do things by their whims and caprices and by impunity. The court said no. That was the judgment yesterday. I'm not that yes?
Pardon me, I'm not a lawyer.
I'm hearing you.
Yes, I'm glad you can hear me. I'm not a lawyer, but if the Supreme Court, that's the highest court in the land, I believe, will rule in the case of a particular political party, being the Labour Party, and say a party's matters are its internal affairs. I believe if the presentation of same came for another political party, for any other court, it should reflect the philosophy of the Supreme Court, its disposition towards a similar matter, even though the subjects therein are different. So I want to ask why in another breath, another court will rule differently from what a Supreme Court had ruled in the past. But let's leave that and progress with...
Let me educate.
Hold on, sir. I'm hoping that you have time to educate me. I've already acknowledged that I'm a layman in this matter. But let's go to Mr. Ogun, who had talked about the judgment being confusing earlier. But Jeffrey had said you do not take a victory to a higher court. You only take a case of a loss to a higher court for determination. So in this case, if you acknowledge that the case is confusing, shouldn't why is the the other party, that's the Wike-led group of the PDP, not seeking a determination of the suspension of its officers at the higher court?
Well, that's because the rascality within the political arena now that is being promoted is being promoted from their camp, really. Because if not, why will you be here and there? Political parties are set up, of course, to seek for elective office and possibly form a government. And these people have said that they are not going to support this party to do what it should do as the 2027 is unfolding. And you would say you are allowing democracy and all that. The point is that the fact that they are not even highlighting that part of their suspension is just unfortunate, because my brother here, who is a lawyer, would probably tell us what that part of the judgment yesterday meant, because clearly it opened with that, saying that the Ajibade-led group were suspended, 4 of them, including himself. That is Ajibade, the former legal advisor to the party, the former national secretary, the former national organizing secretary, and the former deputy legal advisor of the party were suspended. And because of their, while they were in suspension, they went to form what you now know today as their caretaker committee. Now, that was sustained in court yesterday. But where I said there's a confusion is that the justices clearly stated that, yeah, that they don't recognize the Ibadan Convention and all of that. But in one of the judgments they gave, they also referred to the former national chairman of the party, that is Ambassador Ilya Damagun, as having resigned at that Ibadan Convention that they didn't recognize as a properly constituted convention of the party. That is why we are going to court, at the Supreme Court, to now get the proper clarification on that and possibly correct the mistake, as far as I'm concerned, that the appellate court has made concerning this case. But the aspects of the PDP and the processes that got us to the Ibadan Convention, they were constitutionally, through the constitution of the party, followed. So nobody can contradict that. And the aspect about internal leadership and all of that being an internal affair of the party, it is clear. And the Supreme Court has ruled on that. And that is what we're holding on to. And that is why we need to go back there and possibly seek for either the Supreme Court, whether it's going to contradict itself, or possibly affirm or uphold that judgment that clearly allows the political parties to decide how they decide who is their leader. Because if you say you're a member of a party and you're working against the party and you expect the party to give you an enabling environment to succeed in your plot, then the party, of course, is not a tree. The party is made up of people. And people, got together to say, no, we cannot follow you in the direction you're going. And that is why we held on to the convention in Ibadan in November 2025 and all that. So maybe at the Supreme Court,
all right,
if they win, fine. If they don't win, maybe they will now know that
all right,
all of this gloating and all of that, if they are truly members of the party, they will not be excited, about what PDP is currently going through, right, because they are the ones
let's take it
drive the progress of the party.
Let's take it to Mr. Soha now. Now, I'd like you to respond to Mr. Iregbu's pointing out the suspension of members of the Abdurrahman-led group, your legal interpretation of that ruling by the court, and perhaps you now want to speak to the Supreme Court's ruling on internal matters of a party in that of the Labour Party case in relation to the Abdurrahman's group seeking a determination of that particular aspect of this case, in the case of the PDP.
Thank you so much, my sister. I will start by telling you, like you said, I should educate you and enlighten you more, and even the public. I'm a lawyer. When a court says, what the court says is the law, is the law. But then, like my brother has mentioned, what I disagree with, that I'm not, in agreement with him, is all this calling of names, trivializing issues, passing the box. They always call Minister for FCT. This Minister for FCT, what has he done? That he has, if he decides to make, the politics is supposed to be philosophical and ideological. If he says he's supporting a candidate or he's doing whatever he's doing as an individual, PDP is a larger house. It's an association. It's a legal personality. Are you hearing me? It's known to law. There are a lot of people involved. You have asked me a question, very pertinent question, that if there was no suspension, because in law, you can't put something on top of nothing and expect it to stand. When that convention is in Ibadan, has been nullified because the court says that there's what we call procedural law, that this convention did not hold. It was in a defiance of a contravention of two substituting court judgments that said a convention should be put on hold. And you go and do an unlawful convention. Even in that convention, every decision or any resolution that was taken in that convention is a nullity. So you cannot talk about that carrot. They said that they purportedly claim that they suspended some people in the party without the NEC. NEC is the highest organ of the party. Before you take a decision, NEC you have to approve it after the NWC. So you go to a convention that is a nullified convention and say you suspended people. So whatever decision you took there is a nullity. That is one place. Let me just say.
So you're mixing it up.
Let me come up. You are talking about suspension.
No, you're mixing it up.
Can I tell you something?
No, at least a guide, please. You're mixing it up.
I allowed you.
No,
that's why
Mr.
the decorum in law.
That's fine.
Pardon me, Mr. Soha. Gentlemen, hold on. Are you denying that indeed the appeal court upheld the suspension of the National Legal Advisor and by extension other officers like the National Secretary and National Organizing Secretary. And the court also upheld, well, of course, we've spoken to the upholding of the judgments of Justice James Omotosho and Peter Lifu, but I wanted you to speak specifically to the suspension of the National Legal Advisor, which was also a key highlight of the judgment from yesterday.
They said it took place in Ibadan.
No, you're mixing it up, my brother.
I still remember.
You're mixing it up. There was a suspension before.
My brother is not a member of NEC.
No, please allow me.
You should stop interjecting me. Allow me to speak.
Okay, maybe I will be giving it.
Mr. Soha, so who is the National Legal Advisor that is being? Who is the National Legal Advisor that is being referred to in that suspension? Is it not the
in court?
Is not exactly. The
Ajibade SAN?
Yes.
SAN.
Thank you.
That's what I'm saying. That they claimed, because I remember the motion they moved in that their convention in Ibadan, that they suspended some members of the National Working Committee. That's what I'm telling you, that the court has nullified that convention. That everything that happened in that convention is a nullity. And apart from that, even in last December, 10th of December last year, because I was the Deputy National Legal Advisor, equally, all the whole members of the National Working Committee, they was elected for 4 years.
So you're saying
and
that...
our tenure expired by 10th of December last year. So as far as I'm concerned, that one is
so you're saying that that suspension does not stand because it was the outcome of the Ibadan Convention. Okay, hold on. Hold on, Mr. Soha. Let's have Mr. Rebu give his own interpretation of the suspension that was issued by the court yesterday.
I have Supreme Court judgment.
My brother, please. I have a chance now. On the issue of suspension, let's trash it so that the people.
That issue of Supreme Court.
You had spoken to the issue of Supreme Court. I believe that was what you started with. Let's have Mr. Rebu respond to the suspension bit of the ruling.
On the issue of the suspension issue that was clearly upheld in court yesterday, the suspension was by the NWC, not at the convention. That's where you're mixing it up. At the convention, what we did was expulsion. You were expelled from the party for anti-party activities. That's not what is being referred to. NWC suspended this group of people, 4 of them, the National Secretary, the former National Secretary, the former National Legal Advisor, the former National Organizing Secretary, and the former National...
Are you aware?
Excuse me, sir.
Are you aware?
Please, now,
but
please.
Let me tell you.
I'm trying to educate... please.
The suspension you are talking about, are
Let's
you aware?
just situate this discussion well.
Our own group also, when we heard
No, please, can I...
You are not coming up to... Now, you are coming out to bring up the issues and
please,
bedevil the party. Are you aware that Damagu also?
Please, sir, can
I? Are you aware that Damagu was suspended
60 seconds
also?
to land, and then we'll come to you to give your final thoughts.
Land and then they will come to you.
If not,
you see,
we'll just have to close the segment.
I'm talking,
Mr. Soha, please give me your
Can I be given?
I don't discuss.
No.
I don't discuss.
Gentlemen, please. If we're rowdy, we're not going to have a conversation. Mr. Soha, you had your time. There may be information that is not as clear. You've spoken to your position. If I understand very well, you're referring to what they consider expulsion, that both groups counter-expelled each other. But this is an NWC decision that was raised yesterday in court, that your group is saying, even agreeing without necessarily accepting without agreeing, that expulsion lasted for just 30 days. So, Ms. Arebu, please respond to what you're trying to say.
The point is that so that the people who are watching will also be clear about the angles that we're raising here. The suspension was by the NWC, not at the convention. And after they were suspended by the NWC, 13 out of 18 of them, or there are about 14 out of 18 of them, suspended these 4. And they went on their own after their suspension to have their meeting. And there in their own meeting, 4 of them said they have suspended the national chairman, the then national chairman of the party. That's what the issue is. And in court yesterday, the court upheld the suspension, that very suspension of the former national legal advisor and the other 3. So now the point is that they cannot therefore be claiming what they are claiming right now, which is that their illegality about setting up a kangaroo caretaker committee does not stand. Going by that judgment in court yesterday, then the court also haven't said that they don't recognize the Ibadan Convention. That's why I referred to the conscience of the party, which is the Board of Trustees. They ought to step in now because there can't be a vacuum. Right. While the TK Turaki SAN goes to court, to the Supreme Court, the party can still, have his own life being put together and all of that. But my brother here mixed it up by saying that the suspension as referred to in court yesterday, that it was the issue of the expulsion. No, it's not. It's not referring to that. To tell you were suspended by the end of UC, and after your suspension, you went to have your own meeting, and in your own meeting, you said you suspended the national chairman. How can that be? And then you said you formed a caretaker committee. How can that be? You said we don't have a we're not living in a banana republic. This place is
Ms. Arebo, just a moment. Just a moment, Ms. Arebo. So we're totally out of time. I'm trying to make sense of everything. We have to make sense of the situation. Mr. Ondo, you're going to respond to this, but I think we have where we're going to. There was an expulsion of your group. With even a disclaimer, and then your group also met and also expelled them, the back and forth. But where I'm going to, while you're responding to this, is one of the things that Bukola, my colleague, has raised, and which is why perhaps the other group is heading to the Supreme Court. If you look at, let me even read the provision. I think that should be, I hope I'm right, yes, Section 88 of the new Electoral Act, which was Section 84, subsection 15 or 14 in the other act, says that a political appointee, that's not it, 88.2, notwithstanding the provisions of this act or rules of a political party, an aspirant who complains that any of the provisions of this act and the guidelines of a political party have not been complied with in the selection and nomination of a candidate of a political party for election may apply to the Federal High Court for redress. When the Supreme Court ruled in one of the cases, I think it's a River State case, it referred to this portion as the one of the only premise where political parties' internal affairs should approach the court. Nomination of candidates and all of that. Leadership and membership is the exclusive preserve of political parties. So that is why you as a lawyer will help us interpret this, although this is going to go to the Supreme Court. But that is the position of the Supreme Court in responding to your question as we wind down in just 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, Geoffrey. This particular statement you've made now is very important because, we are not here for academic exercise like my brother coming here to discuss issues. We are here to discuss a Court judgment that took place yesterday. You mentioned this provision of the Electoral Act, which provided how an aggrieved party, member of the party, can approach the court, the Federal High Court. And don't forget, even INEC, that is an electoral body, an electoral institution that regulates political parties and does elections in Nigeria, is saddled with the responsibility to make sure that it controls the political party. So the court yesterday said it. I mentioned it ab initio, that the court here yesterday, the appeal court, said that any political party that does its congresses, its conventions, without not in accordance with the provisions of the constitution of the party, that the court will wade in. You can't just be telling me that everything a political party does is in accordance with the internal affairs of the party. Are we in a lawless society? Why are laws made? So if you are doing a meeting of a party, a political party, and you kill somebody in that meeting, and the court will say it's an internal affairs of the party. That's why the court yesterday educated all the politicians. We must be doing this now in accordance with the rule of law. We have the Constitution, we have the Electoral Act. That's what I said. My brother here discusses issues.
We're totally out of time.
One important issue.
Mr. Soha.
The Court of Appeal has given judgment.
Mr. Soha.
And the judicial precedent and case law.
No, Mr. Soha, if you can hear me, if you can allow me to speak, if you can hear me, you cannot disparage his position, neither should he disparage your position. Everybody's opinion is valid. That's why we brought both of you to hold your position. So it is only fair he states what he knows and understands and believes and is convicted about. What you're saying about I quoted to you the position of the Supreme Court. Issues around membership and leadership. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. That is the court of public policy. But that's why we hope that the Supreme Court will make a decision and put a finality to all of this. We didn't have time to talk about the politics of your party. We're just talking about the legalese. Okechukwu Soha is a former deputy national legal advisor of the PDP and now a member of the National Caretaker Working Committee. And Dixon Oregbu is a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party. They are all members of the same party wearing red cap, literally an Ashrebi session here on TV. But they are divided as far as their politics is concerned. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on the program. We appreciate. And let PDP survive.
Yeah,
we hope it
should. It's a brand name. It's going to survive.
All right, thank you. We have a lot more coming on the program. You don't want to miss yet another set of controversial issue. Stay with us.
Welcome back. And as we progress, we seek understanding of yet another contentious issue. This time around, it's about what is emerging as a boundary dispute between the Ogun and Ondo state governments. And now this follows President Bola Tinubu's order for the commencement of oil drilling of an abandoned oil well somewhere on Eba Island. And so Eba Island, according to reports, is found in Ogun, waterside local government area. But are there two Eba locations in Ondo and Ogun State? This is what we seek to understand this morning on the program, as the Ogun State government has reaffirmed its claim of jurisdiction over Eba Island in Ogun, waterside local government area. Of course, where the oil deposits are reportedly found. So let's speak to both sides now, starting with Ogun State. And joining us on the program this morning for clarification over the issues are His Royal Highness Oba Segun Ogunye Ojutumoro of Abigi, Ogun State, is also the former chairman, Ogun Waterside Local Government. We also have Professor, right beside His Royal Highness, Professor Olusegun Awonusi, former Ogun Commissioner of Education and former Vice Chancellor Tai Sholari, Federal University of Education. Good morning, sirs, and thank you for joining us on the morning brief.
Good morning. Nice to have you.
Yeah. I'm going to start with you, Your Royal Highness. Are there two Eba Islands or Eba locations? So which one is Eba Island and which one is just Eba?
What we've decided to do when it comes to that segment is to allow Professor to speak explicitly on that, because there are more than one Eba. And as a matter of fact, there are evidences, documents to prove that we have more than one Eba. The island in question, yes. There are other ones around that belt, you know, the coastal belt or the coastal region. There are other two Ebas. One is clearly located in Ondo. There's no issue with that. It's around the reserve in Ondo. And there is another one that is also within Ogun axis that is not even on the island. So we can say we have three. But if we need...
Three? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes. Prof.
Okay, Prof. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Sometimes I get interested in this because I'm also a linguist. In Ashifal, if you Google, you will find that the issue of EBA, so in terms of spelling now, cuts across about 5 different countries in the world. But if we domesticate it to southwestern Nigeria, the Eba that we're talking about, the Eba community, is in actual fact a concatenation of settlements. And what do I mean by that? In the Ogun sector, we have Eba Idiorobo, where the drilling is taking place. We have Eba Alaye, And then we have even a much older Eba close to Awodikora. So all this, and then
all these three you have mentioned are within Ogun
yes.
waterside.
And then we also have one Eba in the Ondo sector that is very close to the forest reserve. So the issue is that our friends in Ondo sometimes confuse these Ebas. They are different settlements. That's why decidedly use the word concatenation of settlements. And it's not the first in the world. We do have such in different parts of the world.
Now, I'm glad you said you're a linguist, because that's also part of what could help us understand the issues and distinguish the two Ebas. Yes. Now, on the one hand, the Eba in Ogun, Waterside local government, is called Eba, yes, right?
Yes.
But we know that as far as Ondo and Ogun are concerned, there are two distinguished groups, ethnic groups from southwestern Nigeria, both culturally and language-wise. So the one in Ondo, is it also called Eba? And what language is spoken in these two communities?
Yes, that's very interesting. You know, there's a difference between language use and areas where people exist. Just as in Lagos, for example, we have Yoruba in Lagos, we even have people of Afro extraction who have even been here for generations. Now, the same is the story of Ogun Waterside local government. In Ogun Waterside local government, particularly Ogun East, in the northern part of Ogun East, we have our brothers there, the people of Ikale. And in actual fact, you won't even believe that they constitute 2 out of the 10 wards of the local government.
There are Ikale people in Ogun East.
Yes. Quite enough. So, as you now go south, you also have a few, and also a few Ilajes, some of which live with us, and we've lived peacefully over the years. But of course, that does not diminish from the fact that the territory belongs to Ijebu under the jurisdiction of the Awujale and even a number of cases in the past, a number of judicial issues have arisen in the past, where it's been clearly stated that the area that we now talk about is Ijebu territory, but we have, these are friends also, well, you know, residing there with Ijebu people. And so there's no problem with us.
So if there are Ikale speaking people in Ogun East and Ilajes in Ogun East, they just reside, but are they claimants of, you know, hailing from Ogun State? Do they claim Ogun State?
Politically, they are in actual fact, surprise. Some of them have even become vice chairman of local governments in Ogun State, local government chairman, of course, and of course, even we have even had people of high political extraction from the area. I can give 2 ready examples who are Ikales. For example, one became national party chairman of PDP at some point, and one was also a federal minister. But the fact that they come there and they stay there, well, they stay on Ijebula, and they are like brothers and sisters.
So you're saying that they're settlers?
The settlers.
So they're not indigents?
They're not indigents, they are settlers.
So is that where Eba Island is, this area in Ogun East?
Where Eba Island is, the contentious area, which is in Makun Kingdom, and Kabiyesi will explain the issue of Makun Kingdom and Iruku Kingdom. That is really in the Jebu part of it, Ogun Waterside local government.
Okay, so let's come to Kabiyesi now. I was asking him if tonally, you know, Yoruba has, you know, language tones. Tonally, Eba in Ondo State also sounds the same as the one in Ogun State.
That's
and
right.
Perhaps you want to elaborate on what the Prof has said.
The truth of the matter is Eba is Eba.
Okay.
And virtually, whether whether we are friends, we've got married to our children have got married to them, so we won't take it away. But don't forget that a tenant will remain a tenant, no matter how long he stays in there. The owner of the property owns the property. We had an issue sometime ago when the issue of creation of Jebu was being handled, whether it was in Lagos, then later in Akure. when some of the largest and well, they said they cannot go with us in formation of Ijebu State. And we said, no problem. If you are not going with us in forming our own state, then you should quit the land, because he who owns the land owns everything on the land as it is. No matter how long you have stayed there, it doesn't even matter that you own the land. So the issue is we've been living very peacefully. Today, in our area there, we have Ayede, Ayila, Ayetumara, and so on. All these are part of Ondo State. The people living there, they are from majorly largest speaking people. And we accommodate. When I was the local government chairman, my vice was from that extraction, and we don't have issues at all. So the issue of EBA, I think with time, it will show very clearly to our friends in Ondo that it belongs, it's just an assertion. It belongs to Ogun Waterside local government.
So
just a moment. So, for people who are not familiar with the territory,
Yes.
Basically, are you saying that this controversy ensued because of the exploration that is going on?
Exactly.
It became more propounded.
Yes.
Because, sorry, sir, I've been listening carefully to know that you've established the fact that this relationship has been there.
Yes.
You've been living peacefully. Everybody has benefited one way or the other, maybe by appointment or whatever it is that has come through for that area.
Yes.
But until now, when this discovery or this exploration for discovery started, that's when the agitation. So what is the claim of the other group, the people from the Ondo end? What is the agitation exactly?
Well, I am surprised. Well, why I said I'm surprised is that everybody knows his territory. As I speak today, we still have people, Elijah and more, living within this territory. And they hired land from the Jebu ownership of such land. There are receipts, there are evidence that the land does not belong to them, because if it belongs to you, you cannot continue to pay. There are receipts.
How long has this been? So let's establish history.
Oh.
How long have they? Because my deduction is that you're saying expressly that these are settlers.
Yes.
They're not indigents per se.
No,
they are
they are
settlers.
not. They are settlers.
In fact, you have receipt to the effect that they are paying for residency in a sense. So how long has it been?
I think
For very many years.
very many years.
You have physical copy or what evidence do you have in terms of the receipt for payment? Because that's a strong evidence. If you for example, were in court, that will be sorted. That if these people are settlers and they are paying for residing in the area, you need to present that in court.
Very good. Well, if it gets to court, we would, but we can quote for you seat numbers and everything.
No, go ahead, please.
Okay. First, as I said, this has been a simmering over the years. And people from Ilaje were always putting two government notices. But these two government notices even became nullified when the reign of King Biligua II, as the Awujale of, and when the settlements of Ayede, Ayila, and all of them say, no, they belong to Ondo province and not Ijebu province. This is predating Nigeria. And the two cases, including the one that even went to West African Court of Appeal then, the two cases were lost. And the suit numbers...
So Bukola, sorry. So if I understand, because I want people who are not familiar with the area, sorry, Bukola. So you are saying that, I've listened to Kabezi and I've listened to you, Prof, as well. You're saying that, you mentioned the issue of maybe Jebu State, they didn't want to be part of it. You've mentioned something now. So you're saying that if in all the instances when we wanted aggregation, you were not forthcoming, why do you want to lay claim to what is now going to be like a treasure for all of us. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, precisely, because that is exactly what they want to do now. That, well, they have settled with us peacefully, we've taken them, but suddenly because they feel that this is a new treasure, maybe it's man's acquisitive tendency, because although it has a lot of oil, but we are happy for them that they have that and all that. But I see the one that God has now provided us, they also want. And that's not quite true.
Let me quickly put this one in, and it's a critical part of the question because we have to get to, the representative from Ondo State. The deposits that have now been discovered on Eba Island, is it the Eba Island in Ogun State or the one in Ondo State that bears the deposit of this oil?
Yes.
For drilling, which drilling will start soon?
It is the one in Ogun State. Specifically, the place is known as Eba.
Have you been there, sir?
I have been there.
You've been there?
Yes.
Have you cited oil, for which the federal government has instructed commencement of exploration?
Yes, it's there.
It's there?
Yes, it's there. The whole, well, historically, they have discovered it for a while now, and because there is it's like a pump site. There is a pump in there. As a matter of fact, the question I asked them when we went there was that, why is this thing here? Is it because they want to see whether it's of commercial value now, or what is it all about? But now that the federal government has said, okay, it's been approved for drilling, that is why this new movement to site. And don't forget too, that government will not act in vain. The Nigerian Navy holding forth there, providing security there. If government did not believe in that project, they will not. And if there is controversy, you must have heard about it. So to the federal government, there was no controversy. It belongs to Ogun Waterside local government.
All right. We'll find out if that is the case when we talk to the representatives from Ondo State. But thank you for bringing your perspective, your narrative to this conversation. His Royal Highness Oba Segun Ojotumoro of Abigi, Ogun State, and former chairman Ogun Waterside local government, and not forgetting, of course, Professor Olusegun Awonusi is a former commissioner for education in Ogun State and former vice chancellor Tai Sholari, Federal University of Education. Thank you, sirs, for coming on the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
When we return from this break, we'll speak with a traditional ruler from Ondo State on this same subject. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's continue the conversation on the same subject matter now, what appears to be an emerging boundary dispute between Ogun State and Ondo State following the order of drilling of oil found on Eba Island. And this time around, we have joining us right here in our Lagos studio, His Royal Majesty Oba Samuel Adeoye, Molokun of Atijere Kingdom in Ondo State. We also have His Royal Majesty Afolabi Odidiomo Olu of Igbokoda Kingdom in Ondo State. Your Royal Majesties, welcome to the program. We have royalty today on the program, but we only hope that we're talking about more peaceful subject matter. But we hope that this turns out in peace. Now, His Royal Highness Oba Segun Ogunye had said that indeed there are Ondo-speaking peoples in Ogun Waterside. There are Ikale people. There are Ilaje people in Waterside, and as a matter of fact, the Ogun and Ondo peoples in Ogun Waterside local government areas have always dwelt in peace for a very long time, but that they are settlers in Ogun State, and there is no dispute about who owns the land. I'd like to start with you, Your Royal Majesty Oba Adeoye. How do you weigh in on that position expressed by the traditional ruler from Ogun State?
Thank you very much. I totally disagree with my brother, my friend, the Ojotumoro of Abigi. The largesse in Ogun State, they are not settlers. They are owner of the land. And they have never paid any dime to anybody in Ogun State to be the owner of that place. Well, I have every evidence to prove that, those places are illegal land. They are illegal land. In fact, those places, they are under my district centuries back, before now. In fact, they are being controlled by the Amakoto of mine, the prescribed authority of mine. In fact, this place they are talking about, the Ilages there, they are prince in mine. Both the Ilages of Igbedu, the Ilages of Eba, they are prince in mine. In fact, some of them contested recently when there's a vacancy of the current Omakpetu, they fail. So they are on their land. They have been on their land from centuries. So they have not paid any dust to anything. Even in Irokun, they are 85% Ilages. And Amakutu had some time ago appointed a Oloja there. And in fact, there are evidence to prove that when around 1994, 1914 and 1915, when they were erroneously and fraudulently taken to Ogun State, they protested that they are not Ijabus, they are Ilajes, that they must be taken back to where they belong. That struggle has been on since that time up to now. They are still agitating that they want to go back to where they belong. So that's the truth. Is this an
acknowledgement that there are foreigners who own land in Ogun State?
They are not foreigners. You
are saying that land belongs to Ondo State, but is wrongfully in Ogun State?
Yes.
Some part of it.
Some part.
Can you explain that?
Yes, I'm explaining that because prior to the amalgamation period, there's a Mayan district, and there's definition of where what is Mayan district.
Mayin is M-A-H-I-N.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and this definition, and even the map of this Mayin district is available. These villages you are talking about, this are there in Mayin the district map before the creation of Ogun province and Ilaje province. It was the creation of Ogun province and Ilaje province that brought about, that was when, because of the Ijebus wanted to access the coast or the sea, they decided because they work with the government then, with the Europeans then, because they are educated. You know, we Ilajes, we are not educated. So they have seen the potentiality in this area, the Atijere Eba Island that is full of a lot of mineral resources, and that they want to. So they now, instead of taking the Mayan district to Ondo province, they now decided to cut behind some of the lands or the communities that belongs to the Mayans. That has been the genesis of the crisis.
When you say they, who is they? Perhaps Kabiesi.
In addition to your response, we cannot discountenance heritage and history when it comes. That's why traditional institutions and traditional rulers are the ones that are brought in here, not just lawyers. However, we're living in 2026. My question is pretty simple. Are elections conducted in that place, that Eba Island? Do elections happen there?
Of course.
There are polling units there?
The polling units there are counted as part of his territory.
So when elections are conducted, yes, which state are those results?
Ondo State, Ilaje.
Mahin
Ward 4.
Oh, it goes to Ondo State?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
But according to a document by the Federal Ministry of Information, I believe, there are wards created there for elections by INEC, which fall under Ogun State. I'm trying to see if I can find the document. Please I'll refer to the particular document, but that's a document from the Federal Ministry of Information.
Let's see, there's a problem.
Yes, we'd like you to speak to it.
Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
There's a problem we need to quickly identify here. To say wards are created in particular areas It must either be as a result of the demand of the people in that area, or the government just felt that, okay, there are enough people here, let's create works for them. The area we are talking about, there are some areas that are already balkanized and claimed to be for Ogun State. And there are still areas where the polling units there are still part of Mahim Ward 4. At least about 2 or 3 of them like that are still part of Mahim Ward 4. So if the information says there are polling units that were created, fine and good. Where are they created?
Yeah, and to answer that, LA Primary School, Eba, under Makun Irokun Ward in Ogun Waterside Local Government.
Okay, that's very fine. I'm happy to hear that. But the one we are talking about
no, but this is a government document.
Yes, I understand.
This is a government document.
No, I said I'm happy about that. Yes. I'm not disputing that.
Okay.
I'm not disputing that. Yeah. But I'm glad my brothers, they have stated that there's difference between Eba and Eba land. There are 2 different issues here. There are 2 different things. Eba is different. Eba land is different. We are talking of Eba land here now. The polling unit you are talking about is for Eba, which is one way or the other under currently under Ogun State. But the one we are talking about is Eba land. Our own polling unit are situated on the Eba land we are talking about now.
So they had claimed, the cabinet that just left said that the oil that is being discovered is discovered on their own portion
of Eba Island.
Of Eba Island.
Okay, I don't know.
He was here. You were. I'm sure you were listening to him. Yes, we just.
No, let me make this.
Yes.
Let me say this. You see, look at this picture. If you are coming into Lagos, you get to Oworoshoki, you get to Agbara. Before you get to Agbara, it's all Lagos State, isn't it? At Agbara, it is Ogun State. After Agbara, you are in Lagos State. That sounds a bit confusing, as it were. So, on the main road in Agbara, the polling unit there will be counted as Ogun State. Just a little bit by the same line, after Agbara, the polling unit there will be Lagos State. And you are using that one to claim land in Ijaniki. And that's the situation here. Eba Island and Eba are not the same. And the word Eba is from where? The word Eba is an Elijah word. It is a fish. Eja Eba. The one that the Yorubas would normally call Eja Oson. So, Eba is what we call it in Elijah. And everybody going to that Aziz, because the fish was many in those days. There were just too many. Any little hook you put in, you bring out one. So the whole of that region was named Eba by Elijah. The Jebus were coming to fish also. They come first to buy something from us. They call the fish kusukusu. They are small fish like this that they buy alive to fish.
Okay.
Now, those who are predominantly settled in that area are Elijah people.
Okay, so according to Kabiesi's explanation earlier
where the oil is found, let me dwell on that. So, because my Kabiesi was saying that the where the oil is found is the Eba Island Forest Reserve of Ondo State, where we have our Elijah people staying, where we have a village there that has been there for centuries.
Kabiesi's position is to the contrary, that where the oil deposits are found are in Ogun Waterside Local Government, Eba Island.
That's what I'm saying. It's not true.
But from your explanation earlier on, Eba itself and the areas where Ilaje and the Kale people are currently found in Ogun Waterside used to be Ondo territory back then.
Yes.
But when it was determined back, during colonial times, your people wanted to retain their territory in Ondo State.
Yes.
But the resolution was to the contrary, and the demarcation brought them to Ogun State.
Yes.
Is that what keeps the Eba Island that is currently in dispute in Ogun territory, according to the current boundary commissions?
We have only 30 seconds. If you can wrap
you
up
acknowledge that?
Yeah, I acknowledge that Eba Island, Eba village is currently in Ogun State.
Is in
but
Ogun State.
the Eba Island is not in Ogun State.
Where?
From your
In
own
Ondo
position,
State.
the one that has the oil deposit, where is it?
It's in Ondo
It's in
State.
Ondo State.
Is it
In
Ondo
Ilaja
State?
local government, under my territory.
We're going to have more time.
All right.
Because this is not a quick fix conversation.
Okay.
All right.
Because of time, we need to wrap up here. Bukola.
Yeah, we hope that we had time to understand it a bit further, but we must truly anchor at this point. His Royal Majesty Oba Samuel Adeoye, Molokun of Atijere Kingdom, Ondo, and His Royal Majesty Oba Folabi Odidiomo Olu of Igbokoda Kingdom, Ondo State. Thank you, sirs, for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
We hope we'll have more time.
Don't
to really
finish.
put the issue.
Yeah, just hold on. Here, go ahead. Let's take a break. Bukola.
Yeah, when we return, it will be time to talk about the economy. How much are you buying petrol for? We'll try to understand the issues after this time out. Stay with us.
Let's see what we can do in the next 40 minutes to bring perspective to what's playing out in the oil and gas sector. Kelvin Emmanuel is an energy economist. He joins us from Abuja studio. Mr. Emmanuel, thank you so much. They say brevity is the soul of wit, so we have to be quick and punchy on this one so that we can make the most out of the conversation. Nigerians are, again, crying. The gantry prices have increased, given what is playing out in Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. Give us your interpretation of what we should be looking out for and how long we need to bear this.
Joe, thank you so much for having me. It's always a privilege to be here. So, I'm not going to go back to the history of how, the Prime Minister of Iran was overthrown, slaughtered because of Anglo-Iranian company that was actually seized and nationalized by the Iranian government in 1951. The history, because we don't have time. But the reality on the ground today is that there is a small aperture in the Middle East called the Strait of Hormuz that borders between Iran on the upper side and then the UAE and Oman on the lower side. And that ensures that about 20.7 million to 22 million barrels of crude daily, which is about a fifth of global consumption, comes through Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, Iraq, and then also Iran, into the Arabian Sea. And a lot of that crude that comes out of the Straits of Hormuz into the Arabian Sea actually goes into what is called the Malaccan Straits, which is a border between the Pacific Ocean and the Arabian Sea through the South China Sea. And it goes to feed most of the demand in Southeast Asia, Japan, South Korea, China mostly, because most of Iranian oil, about 4 million barrels of Iranian oil that is sanctioned, because Iran is sanctioned. Iran pulled out of the GCP, America pulled out of GCPOA plus E5+1 in 2016 when Trump became president because of concerns they had about nuclear enrichment of uranium, the isotopes of uranium, form a nuclear bomb through fission. And this is being the central thrust of the fight, that Iran has sponsored Hamas, Hezbollah, and other militia organizations around the world to attack American partners in the Middle East like Israel, And on the other hand, America is also playing a chessboard game, which is because America has had issues with China around rare earth metals, around trade policy. You can see when Trump became president early last year, the first thing he did was to put up tariffs against China. America is trying to cut off Chinese energy supply for cheap crude oil. So he went to Venezuela first and cut off a lot of that Mary and low API crude. Now he's coming to cut off the supply of crude to China from Iran. So while Israel is focused on its security and its future, the US is focused on a trade war with China and Russia. Even if, or unintended consequences now, crude oil price went to $117 a barrel, dropped to $84 a barrel last night. It's currently up to $92 a barrel. America has had to say that they are going to temporarily lift the sanction on Russian crude and remove that oil price cap on Russian crude. So that is what is actually, making the price of crude oil to go up on international markets. So if we bring it back home to Nigeria, Nigeria is not insulated, despite the fact that Dangote built the largest refinery in Africa and the 7th largest refinery in the world today. Dangote is not insulated from the vagaries of what is happening in the international market because he pays for crude oil in US dollars. Today he's using about 18 million barrels of crude oil. 5.7 million barrels comes from NNPC cargoes currently. That crude, most of that crude is actually not in Naira like is being said because it's benchmarked at the current exchange rates. So what it simply means is that if crude oil price goes up, he's going to have to adjust his cracking margins because the price of a metric ton of PMS on the global markets flats is anywhere between $870 and $900 a barrel. If you multiply that by the current exchange rate and divide it by the number of liters you have in a metric ton of PMS, you come to anywhere around 1,150, 1,200 naira per liter. So as the price of crude oil comes down, for example, because America has said that its Development Finance Corporation is going to provide guarantees for hull and machinery, production and protection and indemnity, P&I, and war risk insurance, so that ships can pass through that Straits of Hormuz channel. And the fields that you've had that are shut down. So I'll give you a little more perspective on this fight.
All right.
There are 3 fields in Basra, in Iraq.
All right.
That controls about 2.7 million barrels of crude.
Mr. Emmanuel, pardon me, if we have more time, it's an important conversation. Would really like to know if that very critical Strait of Hormuz can be regulated as it impacts much of the oil dealers in the world. But let's bring in Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry, who is a player in the petroleum sector in the country, to speak about how this would play out. Are we looking at buying petrol for 1,500 naira per liter before this conflict abates?
Well, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to be on your show. The reality is that if you look at the volatility in the price, from what we're seeing, as you know today, the Dangote refinery is a salvation for us. It's a consistent source of product, which is much more important at this time than anything. Availability of product is much more important. The pricing, like we predicted, will have risen above 1,000 naira a few days ago. Right now, we can see that the gantry has gone up to 1,175 naira. By the time you add up all the extant charges, logistics, and all of that, obviously, the price will be getting higher and higher. So yes, 1,500 is not a far-reached, play, but that should not make us to panic. It's better for us to have the product available and be able to do our businesses and get some level of our energy secured, than not having it.
All right, let's get back to Mr. Emmanuel. You were talking about, what could be done to regulate the Strait of Hormuz such that the impact on global oil price is minimal. So go ahead with that explanation, if you can do that in about 60 seconds or 90 seconds, yeah.
Bukola, so it's a very difficult situation, and because Iran has a lot of unmanned aerial vehicles or kamikaze drones, that it will take fighter jets to shoot down. They have thousands of it that can last up to 6 months. And those drones do not necessarily need to be launched from Iran, because the U.S. Navy has sank all Iranian Navy ships. And America can't just wake up and say they want to, assume the status of Lloyd's of London and all the other P&I clubs, protection and indemnity clubs around the world that controls 90% of P&I insurance, that writes securities underwriting for cargo and crew damages, or war risk insurance. It takes time for you to put up this contract. So vessels are afraid to go through because they're afraid that those kamikaze drones will shoot down their vessels and destroy their vessels, and then they have to claim insurance. And these insurance companies have hiked their premiums by up to 4 times, which is very unusual. Your premiums are typically between 1 and 3% per annum, depending on the age and risk of the vessel. So it's going to be a difficult situation. It's an ongoing situation. But what is most worrying, the global demand of crude oil daily is 108 million barrels of crude. And as I was explaining earlier, when you have a situation where the vessels can't take crude and go, and the pipes that take crude oil from Saudi Arabia and Iraq to the Red Sea in Egypt is only about 6.8 million barrels, right? And you have 20 million barrels that comes out of this place. The rigs have to shut down. There are 2 countries, Saudi Arabia and Iraq. Saudi Arabia has a field called Gawa field. It does about 3.8 million barrels a day. Iraq has 3 fields. You have the Majnu, you have the West Kano, and you have the Rumeila field. Yes. They control about 2.8 million barrels. When the vessels are not taking crude and going out, and there is no storage for you to put that crude, you have to shut down the rigs. If you shut down the rigs, it means that you have about 6 million barrels of crude oil that is going out of supply.
Mr. Manuel, apparently,
so if supply drops...
my apologies. Apparently, this, we totally apologize to both of you because we need more time for Nigerians to really appreciate what we're dealing with historically and the roots and all of that and how it will impact us. So maybe we have to reschedule so we have a proper, because Nigerians are really not happy right now because of the deregulated sector. So justice will be done to this conversation. I can promise you that. Mr. Kelvin Emmanuel is an energy economist. Billy Grace Harris is president of Petron. We'll have to have this. We need to have this conversation extensively so you can express yourself better. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that's it on the program. We promise you, these are fantastic people who understand this game. We'll bring them to explain even further with better time. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeffrey Zonga.
And of course, Sunrise Daily is up next. Stay with Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka. Bye for now.